Hello, Internet. I'm Jackie Fox, and man, my content on this channel has been kind of crazy lately. I first want to apologize. I've been working on getting my mother out of being homeless, which is quite a task, as anyone who has ever experienced homelessness can tell you. But in addition, especially with the way the housing market is right now, and eventually I will have to do a video on some of the mechanics of what is messing up the housing market and how companies like BlackRock are ruining things for us, but that will come in the future. But really one of the things that's holding me back the most is I can only turn the fans off in this house for so long to record, and anyone who has ever been around a microphone knows that any amount of wind is just going to ruin your audio. So I have to try not to melt when I actually record audio for this channel. So wish me luck. I'll try to keep this fast. But I do have quite a bit to say. Now, my recent series, before I took a brief foray back into television, which I will have to finish at some point, especially because at least the Ronald Reagan administration allegory was just on point and something that we should talk about. But before that, I did a series on various platforms which allow folks to do sex work online, and just kind of the topic of sex work in general. Though you may notice that there is one company that I did not touch on in any of those videos, and that happens to be OnlyFans. One of the reasons I didn't talk about them is that, well, I've heard a lot of positive things, for one. And I think a lot of people have. A lot of people think of OnlyFans as being this super ethical, free-range porn site. And, you know, when you compare it to, like, the general MindGeek empire that I discussed before, or when you look at the differences between the, like, average of 20% cut that they take from creators as compared to, I think it was up to like 50 or 60% of certain content. Like, I think 20% was the low mark with mini-vids, actually, so that's kind of wild. It seems like there's some truth to that. However, maybe not. But first, let's get into the part of the controversy that you may have already heard about, especially if you were, like, actively seeking this out on the internet at this point, and that is that a few weeks ago, maybe not even that, OnlyFans made the batshit bonkers decision to try to become a safe for work platform by banning all of the porn. Now, as anyone who has heard the name OnlyFans knows, that's basically all it is. I mean, we're talking about a multi-billion-dollar company built on shooting loads on the backs of its workers. Or at least their feet, and just feet pics. I'm probably going to make more feet pics jokes. That feels a little bit more comfortable than jizz jokes, but, you know, whatever. I'm just rambling at this point. So this is still capitalism. I've said that a couple of times. Anytime that I give one of these companies a bit of credit, I do want to point out that they are still making money by exploiting the labor value of their performers. And that's still not cool until we get a community-owned and, like, perfectly flat hierarchical company that produces pornography. That is going to be a problem. However, I kept OnlyFans out of the story because I thought maybe they were decent. But I also knew that, you know, within capitalism, when you become a multi-billion-dollar company, you usually aren't very decent. So I didn't want to stake my reputation on saying that. Now, obviously, their decision to switch off all the porn was not taken well, because probably thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of Americans, not even to mention people all over the world, relied on this site, at least in part, to help cover the bills during a pandemic that made it physically dangerous for many of us to go to work. And for those of us who it wasn't physically dangerous to go to work, we probably had someone in our lives that we have close and often contact with who may not have been able to get a vaccine. And, you know, there was, as hard as it may be to remember now, since we've been talking about and for some reason debating vaccines for so long in this country, it's kind of hard to remember that there was a time before we had them. But in that time, it was really dangerous to go to work in a traditional capacity. And the ability to take pictures or videos on your phone or on a webcam and sell them to strangers online for money kept a lot of people in their houses on multiple levels, both in their houses creating content and also not homeless. So, needless to say, a lot of people were very outraged by this decision, and it was immediately considered one of the worst and dumbest business moves ever made. I mean, it's kind of like if Coca-Cola said that they would no longer sell Coca-Cola. All the other brands that they happen to control will still sell those, but no Coca-Cola. Actually, you know what? No brown drinks at all. Nothing brown. Nothing remotely cola flavored. No colas. And a lot of people wondered why, and the answer wasn't necessarily obvious at first. Many people have called this baffling or inexplicable, but actually I plan to explic that shit today. But we're gonna have to go through a little bit more backstory. So, the reason that they were publicly saying was that the banks were saying that they didn't want to be associated with a porn site. And, you know, this kind of makes sense. Like, if you can't get the money to your creators, if you can't even pay people to make content, how are you going to run this platform? It is a fundamental problem. And, as an aside, we really need to reevaluate the society we live in when a bank or a series of banks can determine what companies can pay their employees. That is fucking absurd. And it is really dangerous, and it's something that we absolutely need to look out for in the future, because banking monopolies just, I mean, I shouldn't have to say this, but have way too much control in our society, and this is a very visible reflection of that. However, what if the banks were in the right? What if it wasn't just them being prudes? What if there is more to the story than that? And in fact, this story happened to come in the middle of a BBC investigation, and wow, I was, as it turns out, probably kind of right to suspect them of being crooked and absolutely corrupted by money. So let's go through some of the highlights of this story. Because first starting to be published, some of their initial findings were published in May. BBC has been investigating how the video sharing site was knowingly letting creators slide and publishing illegal content onto the internet. And boy, when we start getting into what I mean by illegal content, this actually starts to get both weird and scary. Instead of banning an account or sounding the alarm, the company explicitly recommends in what has been called a compliance manual, even though... Okay, so this is funny to me, but like, OnlyFans is playing this game where they're like, it's not a compliance manual or official guidance. It's just what we, as the officials of this company, give to our moderators to guide them on how to enforce compliance, all bound up into something that could roughly be called, I don't know, like a brochure or a pamphlet. No, those are small. Oh, what's the word for like an instruction guide that is large and, you know, relatively thick and detailed? I may have to manually search for that later. I'm sure it will come to me. Anyways, it's even worse than that, though. If you were wondering how the profit motive plays into this, oh boy. So the lowest earning creators really don't get much leeway here. They get kind of hit immediately, and they aren't given nearly as many warnings. Mid-tier creators are given 3 warnings, even if, let's say, the first warning was about posting a video of someone fucking a puppy. This is a thing that apparently the BBC was able to find rather quickly in just a little bit of due diligence on their own part in looking into what was currently on OnlyFans when they were doing this investigation. People paying the homeless for sex so that they could film it and make money on OnlyFans, which is illegal on, I think. I mean, it's certainly skeezy and exploitative. The BBC also set up an account posing as an underage individual, and OnlyFans didn't do anything about that. But, you know, you could make an argument that there is just so much smut being put on this site that it's very difficult to moderate. And as an aside, I want to say, it has got to be particularly difficult to moderate things like incest and rape on these sites, because while they are illegal in many of the areas that they may be posted from, simulating those two acts, often together, like, let's say, you won't believe what I did to my stepsister when she got stuck in the washing machine, kind of videos, with as common as those are on these types of sites, how do you know what's fake and what's real? Honestly, a lot of it's kind of over the top and cheesy, and like you can tell that this is a scripted experience that is being performed by performers, but, you know, some of it is just kind of scary real, and as a viewer, you kind of have to wonder, am I watching incest rape right now? You really, as a viewer, have to hope that the moderators are doing their job. And you would think that that job would be, if you are caught posting rape to this site, you will be banned. Instead, your content gets taken down, sure, once they notice it, but you get warnings. Oh, and by the way, going back to the profit motive, if you happen to be one of their highest tier creators, bringing in the big bucks, and you happen to post something like person eating feces, having sex with a farm animal, like drugging someone so that you could rape them, which is apparently also a thing that they found, you get dealt with by a completely different team with a completely different handbook that I mean, again, these are not compliance manuals, allegedly, but we don't even know, like, what the guidelines are necessarily for that. But I would guess that they're pretty fucking lax. Like, if you could not say that she's your sister on camera, like, we don't care what you do, but if you say that she's your sister, we have to take the video down. Sorry, keep making us money, though. By fucking your sister, I guess. So to read more directly from this BBC article, as this is kind of the primary source. They are the people who did the investigation, and most of the sources I've said are basically paraphrasing this anyways. We're talking about a site with 120 million subscribers who pay monthly fees and tips to creators for videos, photos, and the ability to send them personal messages, with OnlyFans only taking 20% of all payments. In May, BBC revealed that the site was failing to prevent people under 18 from selling and appearing in explicit videos, despite it being illegal for children to do so, probably everywhere in the world. And at the time, they did this, as I have mentioned, by pretending to be a child and just seeing what happened. And nothing happened. They posted fake CP and no one got mad. Leaked documents show accounts are not automatically shut down if they break the site's terms of service. This is kind of the breaking news update to that May story from August 19th, which is pretty damn close, if not like pretty much the same day that the whole porn ban story released. BBC says it has seen some of the examples of this banned content. In one video, a man is seen eating feces, and another, a man pays homeless people to have sex with him on camera. Which, again, I'm not entirely sure how illegal that is. Like, I feel like there's, I'm not a lawyer, don't quote me on this. I feel like there's a weird loophole where, like, prostitution's illegal unless you get it on camera? Or at least, and maybe this is just another one of those categories where, like, I think people just kind of, on a certain level, have an illegality fetish. Like, oh man, that's illegal. Hot. I want to see it. Because, you know, the idea of a guy pulling up to a hot woman on the side of the street and offering her $500 to hop in the bang bus is kind of an old trope in the porn industry at this point. OnlyFans says it's now removed the videos and that these documents weren't manuals or official guidance. But BBC also spoke to some of their moderators, as well as agents of Homeland Security. One of the moderators, who is choosing to go by the name Christoph, which is not the individual's real name, says that on some days he's viewed up to 2,000 photos and videos looking for content prohibited by the site. Which is mind-boggling amount of porn. I mean, like, you've got to get, like, so, I don't know, like, I would be burnt out real fast. Like, my eyes would glaze over. I don't think I could do that job effectively at that volume. It's wild. So anyways, the way that they do this, he says, or at least kind of how they're told to do this, is to use the lists of keywords to search within bios, posts, and even private messages between creators and their subscribers. Now, that last part hits me. You're telling me, look, it's not a private message anymore if the moderators are actively searching through them on a daily basis. Like, that's just disturbing. And I don't know what real benefit that brings. And it's another one of those violations of privacy, kind of like when I was talking about how MindGeek tracks exactly what gets you off and how long maybe you linger on particular parts of the website or particular videos. It builds up these elaborate profiles to figure out exactly what makes you bust a nut the hardest, which is just icky. I don't like the idea of a company keeping a profile on that. That's just, oof. Anyways, he says that he has found extreme and illegal content in videos, including bestiality involving dogs, the use of spy cams, guns, knives, and drugs. So, like, we're not just talking about rape, we're talking about, like, gun to your head rape. Like, violent coercion. Just real bad. Real bad stuff here, folks. And on multiple occasions, he has said that some material is not actively searched for by moderators as frequently as he believes it should be, despite being banned by the platform's terms of service. And on multiple occasions, he says, OnlyFans told him he over-moderated, particularly in relations to videos showing sex in public and to third-party content, which is material featuring people not registered with OnlyFans. This could and likely does go back to the issue of piracy, but you really have to think, if a website allows rampant pornographic piracy, then how can you actually confirm consent? Because, basically, I should only be able to post videos of me. and when I used to work for a camming service, they made me send in ID, and they made me swear that if anyone else appeared on camera with me, I would send in their ID. They had to age verify all of us, and apparently OnlyFans wasn't doing that, according to the May BBC investigation at least. And they obviously weren't enforcing this very well if third-party content was allowed, because that straight up breaks that kind of common sense regulation on a person's ability to upload porn. It's also worth mentioning that when I briefly had a Pornhub channel, I probably still do. I haven't uploaded anything to it for maybe a year or so, and really I just used it as an extra place to upload some of these YouTube videos just in case I got in trouble on YouTube. And just to see kind of how they would perform on a website like that. They didn't really need to know any of my personal information whatsoever. They were more concerned with my gender and genitals than really anything else. And I don't remember being asked about my age whatsoever. Name, never had to send in an ID, none of that. No real age verification whatsoever. My understanding is that MindGeek has tightened up on that, and maybe I should try to sign up for an account just to see how that works nowadays, and if that has actually changed for the better. Maybe that'll be a future video. But to continue with the BBC article, OnlyFans says moderators are given specific briefs, and if they routinely go beyond them, they will be directed only to focus on their assigned type of content. Which means, if I happen to be looking for rape content, and I see someone having sex with a horse, then, and I go after this person who's having sex with a horse, as I should, ethically, as a human being, kind of regardless of my position as a moderator, that will actually get the moderator in trouble, which is absolutely bizarre to me. And again, this is what OnlyFans said. This isn't what the moderator said. This is an official statement, that part. Christoph and the second person who moderated content for the site say that creators offer no, don't care. Really, I don't care about escorting. We'll just skip this part. Honestly, my opinion is that escorting should be legal and safe, and not only safe for the end user, but safe for the workers as well, absolutely. Documents show that although illegal content itself is removed, OnlyFans lets moderators give creators multiple warnings before closing accounts. One, from February of this year, reveals OnlyFans recommends 3 warnings are given to accounts when illegal content is discovered. And are they reporting this to the police or the relevant authorities at any point? I don't know. If I've got evidence that you raped somebody, if you uploaded a video of you robbing a bank, I feel like I should be, I like, turn that into the police. Like, at least give that to them to take a look at. Like, hey, this dude's raping people out here, probably. We assume. We feel pretty strongly that this is an actual rape video. You should definitely look into it. I mean, I think that would really help. It would also really help if the police took rape seriously as a crime and actually investigated it, but that is a separate issue. The documentation discovered in February provides templates for each successive warning, explaining why material has been removed, and that failure to comply with terms of service may result in the closure of the account. BBC obtained several differently dated versions of this same 2001 document. All, except the oldest, state that there should be at least 5 examples of illegal content on an account for it to be escalated immediately to management. Holy shit! You gotta rape 5 people, or 1 person 5 times, I guess. Or 5 dogs? Like a whole litter, maybe. Later versions from the summer include an apparently contradictory statement requiring immediate management referral for some examples of illegal content, although they don't actually go into what those are, but I'd say that's an improvement. I guess they're trying. They're trying to make as much of a profit as they possibly can while, yeah, I'm just not going to give them any credit for being ethical for adding that in the middle of the summer, because really, that should have been in there to begin with. The document also gives moderators specific instructions for dealing with accounts, depending on how popular each one is. It says accounts with higher numbers of subscribers can be given additional warnings when rules are broken. However, staff are told to moderate accounts with lower user numbers as we would, and restrict when necessary. For mid-range accounts, they are told to warn, but only restrict after the 3rd warning. And if one of the site's most successful and most lucrative creators breaks the rules, the account is dealt with by a completely different team, and presumably a completely different rule set. I mean, if the little guys are getting different rules applied to their account than the mid-tier folks are, you absolutely know the people who are bringing them the big bucks are getting all the leniency in the world. To quote Christoph, there is a discrimination between accounts. It shows money is the priority here. The second moderator that they interviewed says that with violations of any kind, you get a few warnings, but you don't just get 1 warning and then you're off. One expert in content moderation says the documents clearly show that OnlyFans has at least some tolerance for illegal material, and I didn't need an expert to tell me that. I think that was pretty apparent. This suggests that they know the type of illegal content that their users are trying to upload enough to have templates for it, says Dr. Sarah Roberts, a co-director for the Center of Critical Internet Inquiry at UCLA. Because OnlyFans has a certain amount of leniency, it also suggests that they are not willing to completely alienate their creators. Even people who may do things illegally at worst and inappropriately at best by immediately deplatforming. Despite being described as a compliance manual in the header of each page of all versions of the 2021 document, OnlyFans says the documents are not manuals or official guidance. The first document from 2020 has edits that are even attributed to Tom Stokely, the Chief Operating Officer, or COO. So, as of 2020, the guy who is at the very, very, very top of the operations team for OnlyFans knew all about this shit. And like, the all-fucking audacity of this company to say, oh yeah, that document that has a compliance manual on every page, in every version, isn't actually a manual, or about compliance or anything. God, these guys are bullshit artists. So, anyways, with this all being knowledge that these banking institutions could have been very well aware of by the time that they started to apply pressure to OnlyFans to do something about it, I mean, that really indicates to you why this happened. And then the whole cover story that so many people seem to have believed that, oh, it's just prudish banks, which, you know, I mean, the best lie is based in truth. I get it. It is an issue. It was a believable lie, but it was that. Basically, these banks were telling them, if you don't actually fucking moderate your site, then we just won't allow you access to money anymore. Even your money. And, you know, I just want to point out that even though, at this point, human beings moderating sites like YouTube and OnlyFans and, you know, Pornhub or any of the MindGeek empire just sounds like such a monumental task because of the amount of content that people are constantly uploading to these sites. You would at least hope that when they actually do it, because this has to be the preferred way, because leaving people's financial well-being up to an AI is just a garbage idea at this point in history, and may always well be. Even when they actually do the thing, they aren't doing it well. They aren't doing it to an acceptable standard. Now, since then, the banks have apparently backed off, allowing OnlyFans to spin this narrative where they are the champions, where they have saved their creators' incomes and everyone should be grateful. But really what it seems like is behind the scenes they said, you know what, we're actually gonna, you know, start deplatforming people and not and fixing some of these problems. Hopefully this means that many of these problems in moderation might be fixed, but really we need to continue to apply pressure, we need to continue to look at them critically, and we need to continue to hold their feet to the fire, because, you know, if they were this shady once, why not do it again? I'm not saying that they couldn't be a good platform in the future, but I think some heads are going to have to roll. And I really, actually, in this one particular case, despite my general aspersions of the banking industry having this power in particular, I'm not sure that they are the people who should be able to make these decisions and enforce these things, but here we are. Despite that, I think that this pressure might actually cause some positive change, but I don't know. People need to keep an eye on this because it is a very serious issue. And, you know, I just want to point out kind of, if you thought the controversy was bad, I really think this was all a PR stunt on their part. Like, I don't think they ever meant to ban their most lucrative $4 billion content gold mine. I think that really they were kind of playing chicken with the audience of 120 million people and all of these creators. They got all of these creators to organically stand up for the company by threatening to fire them all, essentially. And like, I mean, that didn't generate the good press I think they thought it would, but their ability to kind of roll it back real quick, kind of making them look like the hero or look like, crisis averted, when really that whole controversy was used as a cover to cover up this, the actual controversy. BBC article goes on to say that their investigation has found that OnlyFans has been failing to prevent underage users from selling and appearing in explicit videos. And this is part of the issue with that whole third-party thing, because even if you verified my age and all of that when I created my account, if I have a co-star, and you don't know who that co-star is or what their age is, how do you know I'm not raping a child? Really, How do you know? Under 18s... this is a weird phrase for me. This is how BBC puts it. Under 18s have used fake identification to set up accounts, and police say a 14-year-old used her grandmother's passport. Bruh! How bad can the moderation possibly be that you mistake a 14-year-old for her grandmother? Christoph says he frequently came across content where he fears people may be being exploited. He says that while documents set out instructions for dealing with banned content, they contain no requirement for moderators to raise concerns about exploitation. Videos, which the BBC viewed, of the man paying homeless people to have sex on camera raise such concerns. The account brags of hunting homeless people, and is open about taking advantage of them. A different account bears hallmarks of trafficking and exploitation, according to a lawyer who directed BBC News to it. A woman, whose face is never shown, appears in some videos with the walls and floors completely covered with rugs, and there are repeated references to traveling across Europe, all of which are apparently hallmarks of sex trafficking and kind of attempts to hide your location so that no one can figure out where they are if they figure out what you are doing, or who you happen to be doing it to if that person happens to have been forcefully disappeared. Detective Joseph Scaramucci, who works in Texas, says he has recently worked on specific cases targeting human trafficking where the obvious signs of women under another person's control appeared in OnlyFans videos. He says men are happy to pay for sex with these women and pay a premium to be filmed and have the footage uploaded to OnlyFans. This month, 101 members of Congress signed a letter calling for the Department of Justice to investigate content on OnlyFans, principally focusing on child sexual exploitation. Now, as I have said in a previous video, I trust Congress about as far as I could collectively throw the whole building in terms of policing sex work, but... And, as we have seen with, like, QAnon, Save the Children is a really good way to, you know, kind of have a cover for doing whatever kind of authoritarian shit that you want, but in this case, it's about damn time from the sounds of it. In response, OnlyFans said it had a zero-tolerance policy relating to child sexual abuse material, and reports it to relevant authorities and supports their investigations. However, as I could point out, as I said earlier in the video, there are actually only specific references in the compliance manual that isn't a compliance manual to specific things having a one-strike policy in the summer of 2021. Documents from before the summer and into 2020 don't have a thing for that. They are lying. Unless it was something that was apparently so obvious that they didn't write it in their compliance manual. That isn't a compliance manual. Special Agent Austin Barrier, U.S. Homeland Security, specializes in investigating child exploitation online. He estimates he finds between 20 and 30 child abuse images a week, which he says have clearly originated on OnlyFans. He says every internet forum he has visited as a part of his investigations over the last 6 months or so, he has included child abuse images from OnlyFans. Most of them are videos that are live streamed on the site. In some of them, children are receiving direction, he says. It's out there, it's all over the place, and it's being widely traded. Dozens of accounts that appear to have been set up by underage users are closed each day, according to Christoph, who shared a record of some accounts closed over a period of a few weeks with BBC News. Almost all underage accounts are for subscribers rather than creators, he says, including children as young as 10. While they cannot post pictures or receive payments directly on the site, Christoph says, Some use the site to advertise escort services or the sale of explicit pictures of themselves. The profile of one subscriber stated they were 16 years old and advertised sale of feet or other areas for £4. Christoph says this is a particular problem with accounts not written in English. He says foreign language accounts are insufficiently moderated despite the site's huge popularity around the world. BBC News was able to set up 2 subscriber accounts in French and in German, despite explicitly stating that they were 2 young teenagers in the bios and advertising the sale of photographs. The account remained active for a week and only got taken down when the BBC News contacted OnlyFans about the problem. OnlyFans says that all content can be reported by moderators, despite the earlier direct statement that I read for you that says that they discourage moderators from over-moderating and encourage them to basically stay in their lane. So, they're really giving some contradictory answers here at this point. The company says it complies with anti-trafficking legislation and provides annual training to staff. It says the account featuring homeless people breaks its terms and conditions and has now been closed. Now, as you might be picking up, this has been kind of an open secret. There have been numerous law enforcement agencies as well as lawyers, children's rights groups, etc. that have been raising concerns about this, and it seems like that fervor is perhaps what got the banks on board with this idea to cancel OnlyFans. And it seems like this attempted cancellation might have actually got us the moderation that the site should have had to begin with. Maybe. Again, this is really a thing that we're going to have to keep an eye on as a developing story because, I mean, nobody just gives up on a gold mine. Come on. Come on. BBC says that it's learned the Department of Culture, Media, and Sport was warned by a U.S. anti-trafficking charity about content on OnlyFans all the way back in 2019 and even given a full presentation on this. In a statement, the DCMS said that the online safety bill would introduce the toughest laws in the world and that OnlyFans would face huge fines or be blocked if it failed to tackle illegal content. It added the media regulator Ofcom already has the power to suspend video sites if they fail to take steps to protect users from harmful content. Although, Ofcom, or ironically in this case, OFCOM, you're kidding me. It's like the fox guarding the chicken house. Oh man. I'm sure that's absolutely a coincidence. I'm seriously sure that's absolutely a coincidence. In May, OnlyFans published its most recent accounts and stated that any lapse in monitoring underage content and trafficking could bring government sanctions from a wide range of companies and countries and regulators. The company has repeatedly declined to be interviewed by BBC News about these subjects, and I don't really think I blame them. I mean, just given how shitty their public statements that I have read throughout this article have been, yeah, I can see that. In response to BBC News, it said it fully complies with all laws and regulations that apply to it globally, including those of Ofcom, despite all of the evidence that has been presented so far to the contrary, and that uses state-of-the-art age verification and monitoring software, together with human monitoring. Really? How does this state-of-the-art age verification and monitoring software work if you can't tell that a 14-year-old child isn't her grandmother? I mean, I don't know what this state-of-the-art is, but I feel like someone checking IDs when I buy cigarettes probably is a little bit more sophisticated than the state-of-the-art age verification and monitoring software. And, man, this really highlights, I guess, if I should really take this seriously, which nothing about this article has indicated that I should be taking OnlyFans seriously when they say literally anything at this point, but if I should be taking them seriously, it sounds like this is some really shitty software they absolutely should not be relying on. OnlyFans says it believes one of the moderators BBC News spoke to is an employee dismissed for repeated failures to close accounts containing unauthorized material. Interesting. So there we are. What's the takeaway? What's the summary? Now that we have gone through pretty much every part of this BBC article together. Well, OnlyFans is really trying to cover their asses and is just kind of patently dishonest in their statements. I mean, like, God. Like, man, the biggest and most blatant example of this to me, and this one just blows my mind. The compliance manual that's not a compliance manual. I mean, just imagine a 30-page document that literally says compliance manual in the title of every page. And I'm like, nah, that's not like a compliance manual. Well, shit, why did you put that in the title of every page? Seriously. Seriously, OnlyFans. We've also learned that they have seemingly used their creators and their audience in general outrage and controversy and just kind of a whole clickbait campaign of, are we going to do the stupidest business move in all of human history or not? And all of that used as a cover to cover up all of these just ridiculous and amazing allegations that have been made against them. So, what do you think? Is it worth it? I guess. I mean, as I pointed out before, they have one of the lower margins of sites like this. Sites like these have less exploitation in general than companies like MindGeek usually allow their users to get away with, or enforce themselves in various ways. They take a smaller cut of the profits. And as I pointed out, this whole field of work really provided so many people throughout the pandemic the ability not to starve, the ability to feed their families, the ability to feed themselves, the ability to keep a roof over their heads. All of that's obviously a good. But is it worth all of the things that I've mentioned throughout this video? I'm not going to answer that question for you, because instead I would rather you really take it to heart and think about it. Really. Think hard. Because I know that the ideal answer here, hopefully, is that they actually get serious about moderation. I hope that this scare, I hope that them almost being canceled by the banks, is enough of a scare that they will actually take their due diligence in protecting the homeless, the trafficked, children, all of that. Take that shit seriously. But I'm not sure how much faith I have that they will. I hope that they will. But I don't know. What do we do if they don't? What do we do if they don't? Anyways, leaving you with that awful question. I'm Jackie Fox. If you appreciate the probably hour I spent recording this and reading you the news that I have been digging up for the last week now with the help of my friend, then send me some money on Patreon. A subscription would make it much easier for me to afford to fix any of my air conditioners. At least I could get the house cool, so I don't have to constantly run fans. I might actually be able to make content again. Because, just to get on to another whole can of beans, the world And even at times the oceans are on fire. It is fucking hot. It's over 100 degrees in polar ice caps. Surface temperatures are hitting like 150. Old folks are falling onto the pavement and immediately are getting cooked like a fried egg. It has become harder than ever for me to be able to turn off the fans and make this content. Any help that you could give me to pay my electric bill or maybe get a new air conditioner would be great. And if you can't make a recurring payment, if you don't have a platform like OnlyFans, though maybe not OnlyFans after making this video, to help you make money safely during the pandemic, maybe you can't send me that recurring payment of even $1 a month on Patreon, which would, even that would help me, you know? I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but, you know, when people see that Patreon number go up to 10, 20 people, they're more willing to throw $1 my way. So even if you can only give $1, that will help way more than you're probably imagining. But if you don't want to make a recurring payment, you can also go to coffee.com, Jackie Fox, make a one-time payment. Maybe you just have a $5 in your Cash App that you want to send my way. I'd appreciate it. And with all that being said, this is YouTube. Probably. If I'm not kicked off of YouTube for this video. I mean, it's definitely getting demonetized, but that's a whole different content moderation issue. Of course, I don't actually monetize my videos, so it's probably just going to get like age restricted and all sorts of things, because, oh boy, some of the things I've had to bring up in this video are dark. But if you appreciate it, do that YouTube shit. If you were still listening to me ramble on about platforms like this, hit the like, hit the subscribe, tune in for new content. Hopefully I'll have more of it coming soon. Hopefully it's gonna fucking cool down a bit and make this easier for me. Even if it doesn't, I'm gonna have to try to figure out something, even if I I don't know, it's worse outside. I was gonna say, like, if it ever gets cool, I could record in the middle of the night in my backyard. Run extension cord out there, just like, bring a table with me. Just like 4 in the morning, when it's only like 75 degrees. Just sit out there in some very skimpy short shorts and try not to melt. I don't know, man. Do what you can to help. That's all I'm saying. Thank you, and peace. Enjoy, man. Enjoy.